Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how to invest your time, money and energy in your teens and your early 20s to set yourself up for later in life. So the first thing of those is your time. Now for me the most important thing is that when you're young, when you're in your teens, is you've got to get your education sorted. Now I know it may sound tough and it sounds like a bit of a repeated thing. Your teachers are always telling you how important grades are, but really if everything goes wrong, they're your backup in life. They're your fallback option. So you need to have those really, really good grades. You really need to be focusing. So you need good GCSEs and good A-levels so that if everything goes wrong in the rest of your life, you can always fall back on those and you can still get a career. Then the other things you need to work on are your life skills and your soft skills. So these would be through getting part-time jobs or volunteering. So if you can get either of those, then that's really good to build that kind of interpersonal interaction that you don't get at school. And then the other thing you can do is educate yourself financially. So this is something that is really, really overlooked at school. It is something you'll barely ever see. And once you get to kind of the early 20s stage and you need to start thinking about, where your money's going, how you're paying taxes, how to build a credit score, things like this. If you've learned those at a young age, it will make such a huge difference to you. So it's an unfortunate fact of life, but there are way more failure stories than there are success stories. It's something that you can't get over. It's really tough. Unfortunately, statistically, most of us will be failures, which means you have to be prepared for that. So if you want to start your own business, you can go into it with all the positivity in the world, and you really got to think that you will succeed. But if you don't succeed, then having that education, having those grades so you can get a run-of-the-mill 9-to-5 job if everything else fails, so you're not left in a terrible financial situation, that's something that's really important. So then the other thing is getting a mentor. So as I said, part-time jobs and volunteering, these are much easier to get when you're younger. So when you're in your 15, 16, your formative years, you can get part-time work, you can get internships, experience, whether it's 2 weeks, you could get them at big firms, you could do it in investment banking, you could do it in any other thing, in audit, in actuary, things like this. It gives you really good insight into how a business works. So you could even, that could end up putting you in a board meeting where even if you're not directly contributing to the meeting, you get to see how a highly functional and successful business actually operates. So the next thing you can do really is think about the things that they don't teach you at school. So that is financial stuff, and a lot of interpersonal skills don't really get taught at school. You get put into teams and you do team working exercises, but it's not the same as working with people in a professional environment, and that's something you really need to focus on. So things I'd say are really important is try and read some books. So if you can look at Your Money or Your Life, Why Didn't They Teach Me This in School, and Rich Dad Poor Dad, then those are 3 really good books to get started to kind of trigger that thought process on your own financial learning. So all 3 of those books will be linked down in the description, and they are also available for free at the minute as an Audible trial book, so you can try that out whenever you want. The other thing you can do when you're young, because you've got time, you've got bags of time, it may not feel like it when you're focusing on 11 or whatever subjects for GCSEs or your A-levels. But looking back on it, I think about how much time I had during that period, which I wasted either playing video games or just doing nothing at all. I can't even remember what I did. But the important thing you can do is focus on yourself. So learn what makes you happy and progress in self-growth. So even if it's failing at things and learning from the mistakes, that's really important to do. And another thing you can do, which is really tough to do at a young age because everyone's trying to please each other and show off to their friends, is identify a friends group that really care for you and that you really care for, where everything's reciprocated. And what that will do is it's a super useful skill later in life for when you're thinking about your work colleagues or people to help you start a business, for example. You want people that can really push you to achieve the absolute best that you can be. So at a young age, if you can teach yourself how to be happy, what makes you happy and what you can do in your free time, and what kind of people you want to surround yourself with, then all 3 of those things will help you massively later in life. So the next thing is your energy levels. So when you're young, you have so much energy. So I'm 23, I've still got a lot of energy, but when I think back to those years when I was 15 to 19, you have so much energy, literally nothing tires you out. It's crazy. So the thing you can do there is you can work smart, not hard. So even if it's setting aside a specific 30 minutes a day, for example, where you're going to be doing financial research, or you're going to be investing, or you're going to be starting your own business, then that's something that's huge and can really push you forwards leagues and streaks ahead of the rest. If you focus on this from a young age, by the time you're 18, you'll be in the position where some people are when they're 25. So, and on top of that, you've got to make sure that you do leave time for those personal building experiences, finding out what makes you happy. So don't massively overload on yourself, but know that you do have lots of time and energy when you're young to do all of those things and to really grow as a person. The next thing is money. So obviously this is the huge thing, this is the financial side of things, this is the reason most people are probably in this video. So the most important thing is to set up good habits at a young age. I can't stress enough how important that is. So this is not taking on the mindset of, I'll just save what's left after I've done all my spending. What you should be thinking about is, I will do my saving and then I'll spend what I can afford to spend afterwards. So for example, say you get a part-time job, then one important thing you can do is you can set up a standing order, which will put some of that money, before you even see it, straight into an ISA or into a long-term savings account, which means that you're making that good habit of living off a smaller percentage than what you could spend if you were, for example, to spend your maximum paycheck. Now that's really good because it means later in life, when you're earning lots more money, you'll immediately have that thought to start saving and start putting things where your money makes money, rather than just spending everything and at the end of the month going, I've got to pay for my bills now and I spent too much money going out or buying this car or this, that and the other. And that leads on to the next thing, which is staying out of bad debts. So as much as it's very attractive, to get that new Corsa or to get a BMW or to get that brand name car, it's great, and you can spend loads of money financing a car like that, but that's a bad debt because that's never ever going to make you money. If you take a brand new car, or even if you take a relatively new car on finance, after you've used it for 4 or 5 years, you put a few thousand miles on the clock, that car's never going to get back the amount that you invested. So the best thing I'd suggest is try and find a slightly older car that's fuel efficient and is pretty cheap to repair. So if there's any running costs, then they're low. And you'll find that you can buy a car and you could use it for 5 years and you may only make a £500 or £600 loss, which that would be a huge profit. Well, that would be a huge benefit for you. So the other thing is to buy only what you can afford and live below your means. So for me, this meant that all the time up to uni and most of the time through uni, I lived by the only buy something expensive if you can buy it twice rule. So for me, it's not a hard, fast rule. You don't have to follow it. But for me, that worked really well because it meant if I wanted to buy a new pair of shoes or if I wanted to buy, a fancy watch or whatever, I had to limit myself by the fact that I can only buy something if I could buy 2 of them, which meant that I wasn't spending all of my money I had saved up in one go. I was always left with an amount of money that I could use for investing or something else. And then the last big thing you can do really is get a credit card as soon as you're 18. So building a credit score is vitally important. It really helps later in life, whether it's getting a mortgage or getting a good loan for starting up a business or things like this. And they are really useful. Now, the one thing to make sure you only make small purchases and pay off all outstanding balance at the end of the month on time. This will not only build your credit score, but it will keep you out of any bad debts and it will help you avoid the interest rates, which can be quite high when you get your first credit card. So one good credit card I'd recommend is the Capital One Credit. It's the classic Visa. So it's that will be linked down below in the description if you want to check that out. But that's one that's quite good and they're probably most likely to accept any 18-year-old who applies. So the next thing is investing your money. So what can you actually invest your money in at the time when you're 15 to 18, you're thinking about how to spend your money. So you may feel like it's a grown-ups game, unless you've done your research beforehand and you already know how to invest. But a lot of people, investing comes as this big scary thing that only adults can do. I was like that until a few years ago when I actually started trying. So I'm going to give you just a few options of how you can invest and put your money in to see that return. So the first one for me is trading 212. So this is a bit more of a high risk end because obviously you're picking your own stocks. So you have to do a lot of the research yourself, but it does have the best kind of freedom of control. You can do whatever you want, you can control over it. So the great thing about Trading 212 is it's got a great variety of stocks. It's zero commission, it's zero charges. It's got a fantastic user interface, and it's got a really good £50,000 practice account which you can set up and just see how it goes. Learn, with fake money, and make your mistakes there, so that when you're using your own money, you know what you're doing. So if you're interested in setting up a Trading 212 account, then click the referral link down in the description and you'll get a free stock worth up to £100 when you set up an invest account. So the next thing you can do is set up an index fund. So an index fund is basically like investing an amount into loads of little small portions of businesses. So this could be, for example, made up of the S&P 500 index or the Dow Jones index. So these are really good because these are passive indexes that give you exposure to a massive array of different styles of companies. And over a long period of time, they're pretty much guaranteed to perform. They always turn a profit over 10 to 15 years. So this is not a get-rich-quick strategy, but if you set up that principle of investing regularly and investing into these index funds, then this essentially within 30, 40 years will build up your retirement quite easily. So the only con about it really is it's not very flexible for quite a lot of them. So it's very much just a stock index that you have to invest in. But those indexes are well chosen and they're thought out as the largest companies in the world pretty much. So they do normally turn a profit, and it is a long-term reward. The next thing you can do, and this one is really important if you're young, is to open a LISA account. So that's a lifetime ISA as soon as you can. So this is one of the only times in your life that you'll be guaranteed a 25% return on investment. And then you can use that investment. So basically the way it works is you pay in up to a certain amount a year and you get 25% government grant on top of that per year. You can then use that up to a maximum of £33,000 to buy either your first house, or you can keep it in there until you're the age of 60, at which point you can make a withdrawal of the full amount. Now the nice thing with the LISA is that if you're buying a house, which hopefully most people will do, it will also give you a bit more bang for your buck to get into the real estate market, which opens loads of opportunities. The only con with it obviously is it has to be used for a first house, or you have to wait till you're 60 at retirement age to take it out. But for most people, buying a house is quite high on the priorities list at the moment, so that would be a huge thing to consider. So the next thing you can do, this one's really simple, is just to open a high interest bank account. So HSBC, M&S and First Direct, they all offer 2.75% APR accounts, or interest rate accounts. So these accounts are pretty good to go with. They can give you really good returns on your investment. They're incredibly passive. You just put the money in. They have a fixed monthly minimum and maximum you can put in. So you just put in anywhere between those two, and then you'll earn that interest rate on those. The only thing with those is you have to keep it in for a certain amount of time, so you can't withdraw early, and you can't make partial withdrawals. But then if you're looking for partial withdrawals, and a really good one is the Lloyds account, which has a 2% interest rate, but that does allow you to make partial withdrawals. Again, I'll link all four of those down in the description for you. And then finally, one that's slightly more difficult to get into when you're younger, unless you have a side hustle that goes fantastically, or you're incredibly lucky and you have parents who are willing to give you money, is getting into real estate. So that goes hand in hand with the LISA, so you can get that as soon as you can. But real estate wise, once you can afford a property and you can buy a property, you can then start renting out even extra bedrooms in that property or extra space in that property for workspace or office space, or for people to practice certain things. And then of course, if you're buying to rent because you're living elsewhere, then you've also got that opportunity there. So that's a really, really good one as a long-term goal to get invested in, which is a bit harder to do when you're younger. So then you can set up a side hustle. So whether it's YouTube or going on Fiverr, so you can set up a side hustle. So whether you're going on YouTube, creating a course, whether it's a fitness or how to set up a channel course, creating Fiverr, tutoring, or creating your own brand, which is a product or a service, then your own business can be something fantastic. It's entirely self-motivated and it can develop into something which replaces a full-time job within a few years. Now, they're not all going to be successes, but starting a side hustle And having it fail is one of the most important things you can do, because you can learn so much from that situation. So that's one really, really good thing. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. So if you're, for example, one of your friends says to you, you're always really good at coding, or you're really good at computer-aided design, or you're always helping people out with their maths homework, for example, then you can go on Fiverr, or you can go onto tutoring websites, and you can set up an account and you can start charging people for it. Because why not get paid at something you're already doing for free? So to overview, I think the most important things you can do in your teen. To overview, I think the most important things you can do in your teen years are to educate yourself as much as you can, whether that is ensuring you get good GCSEs and A-levels, ensuring that you're financially, as ahead as you can be, reading as much as you can and understanding as much as you can, and also educating yourself on how you are as a person, so what makes you happy, what will keep you motivated in life, and what will push you towards success. Then the other thing you can do is live below your means and build a good credit score. So get into good financial habits and things like that. That's super important. Then one more thing you can do, obviously, is invest early. So time in the market beats timing the market. So rather than just waiting out and saying, well, I don't have much money now, I'll invest in 5 years' time once I've got more money. If you invest now, even if it's only a little amount, compound interest is going to be what gets you all the way up there. So compound interest is your friend. So the longer you're in the market, the more of an advantage you have. And finally, the last thing is just use your time smartly. So when you're young, you can work 70-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks without really feeling too burnt out. So work hard, work smart, and do as much as you can to get yourself to that next level. So I know that's a lot of information to take in, and if you do want a more detailed breakdown of any of the points I've made in this, let me know in the comments below. And again, if you want to open a Trading 212 account, use the referral link below for a free stock worth up to £100. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think of this video and what stocks you get from your Trading 212 link. And also, if you've got any more comments or feedback, then please let me know and I'll be willing to reply. Thanks, see you in the next video.